All right, welcome to the RatCast EP06, one of your favorite ESO PvP podcasts. I'm Icy with Icyfire Gaming, and today we have Shoddy. How you doing, Shoddy?
Hello there.
And we have Candle. How you doing, Candle?
Welcome, adventurers.
And today, man, I always do this. I have like a preset intro, and then I always skip stuff. So before we start, the announcement, again, as always, we do have an audio version of the podcast that you can find over on Anchor. I always put a link in the description, so if you just want the audio version, you can go check it out there. And I think it's also on Spotify too, because Anchor is a pretty cool platform where you can upload it to one, and then it'll just kind of branch it out to various other podcast platforms, which is pretty neat. So again, if you want the audio version, check it out in the description below. And so for today's episode 6, this is going to be technically like part 2 or episode 2 of the Healer Theory series, where we're going to cover the DK and Nightblade and why they're better, or kind of make the case on why they're better than the Templar. And Shoddy, if you want to, I guess just give us a quick recap based on what we talked on the previous episode between the Templar and the Sorc.
Right, because we kind of we focused mostly on the Templar and a little bit on the Sorc, but the reason the Sorc was considered a pretty decent healer was because a lot of the passives actually tie into things that are useful as a healer, like extra weapon damage and cost reduction and ult cost reduction. And we talked about how the Sorc makes a good kite healer. It's capable of being fast and moving around the battlefield and being hard to kind of get a hold of. We talked about how it has long range healing, which ties into that, being able to heal from the distance, and kind of multitask as well, because it can help the team in combos. It can use streak and negate to help secure kills, or even zone by streaking, stunning, or using negates in strategic locations to zone out enemies from certain areas to assist your team. And it just makes for a unique experience as a healer, in that it's a little bit of a different gameplay in supporting with kills and moving around the battlefield. So yeah, it was just kind of unique, even though it doesn't have this a lot of healing abilities in its kit in the same level as Templar, Warden, and all the others. It makes use of different tools and utility to be useful to the team.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as the Templar goes, we talked about how the Templar is the worst healer in ESO, and we talked about how a lot of its passives don't actually tie into healing very well, like the minor protection requiring you to use abilities that you don't actually want to use, or that the other healing tree, its passives are actually not that useful to anything else other than Templar abilities, which often get overshadowed by restoration staff abilities, such
Right.
as the burst heal and the blessing of restoration. It's just a better heal overall because it covers multiple people. And then we also talked about how Templar is just clunky and not really suited for the current meta, how it has a stationary gameplay, whereas gameplay now often requires a lot of movement, mobility, and situational awareness. And the Templar is just built for a outdated playstyle. So and even its ultimate heal gets overshadowed by other ultimates, even Life Giver, because it's slow, you can't block, you can't use any other abilities while it's active, and it often will just get you killed. So just overall, we considered it an outdated healer in most cases.
Right. And I will say this past week, because I've been doing a lot of Oaken Soul setups and stuff like that, I was actually running on my Templar, and not to counter your point, but yeah, I was able to hit like 2 points. I think I hit like 2.7 million heals, whatever. But we all know that you can hit anything over 200 with like any of the classes if the conditions are right. So it's not like, oh, Icy just hit, almost 3 million heals, so the Templar is still valuable. No, the point still stands. It's just that, anybody can do it if the circumstances are right. And of course, other classes can do it a little bit more frequently than others. And I will say that the practice incantation ult, right? I've always said that I would never ever use it unless they made it so you can move, and obviously the last patch they introduced that, and it's actually pretty cool. But I think the biggest counterpoint to it is you can be rooted, man. Like, you can be immobilized and you're stuck in that channel. Obviously you can cancel it if you want to, but I just spent 120 ultimate to do this massive heal. I get rooted, and it's either I stay stuck there or I cancel it. And if I'm rooted almost immediately and the situation demands where I have to cancel it, I just spend 120 health for nothing. So in those moments, it's like, well, if the BG is, very immobilization heavy, which happen, or, it doesn't happen all the time, but if you're in the high sweaty MMRs, right, where we kind of all usually reside in, then it's a little bit more prevalent to be immobilized all the time. But you get those BGs every once in a while where, the enemy team isn't really throwing immobilizers, so it winds up okay. But in those moments, I take Life Giver, 10 out of 10, just because, being rooted is a huge issue. But just something I learned this week.
That was a question that we had that you just answered, because we were looking at that, I believe, last week, or I was talking to other people about it, about gaining the immunity to all disabling effects while you're using practiced incantation. So you're saying that doesn't protect you against roots at all?
Correct. I think it's just stuns.
Interesting.
And you can be, and this happened multiple times where I get negated. So then, well, no more ult. There's nothing I can do now. It just cancels my channel, and then that's it.
You really set yourself up for the negate. If any Sorc is around using negate, it's like an obvious target.
Yeah. Where I think with, I guess, this will be a nice little transition into the Nightblade, where I think when I'm like kind of mid-cast in my Soul Siphon, and I get negated, I don't think my ultimate actually gets spent. It just kind of, your character kind of goes up in the air, like levitates a bit, but then when the negate comes in, they kind of just settle back down. And I'm pretty sure your ultimate doesn't get spent because you didn't really finish the cast.
I don't think it does until it actually starts the healing process.
Yeah, so if you get caught mid-cast, then you're fine. So in that moment, it's pretty good.
But actually, does the healing over time stick to you when the negate hits, or does negate? I don't think negate actually takes stuff off of you that's applied.
It's not supposed to. It's not supposed to, and I don't believe it does.
Right. And we're talking about the Nightblade, right?
Yes. Yeah.
No, just to everything in general.
Well, everything in general, but I was talking specifically about the Nightblade heal ult. And other heal over times that are applied to you, they don't get removed from you when a negate hits you, right?
Correct.
Right,
yeah.
Because echoing vigor, there'd be no point in all of the hots, all of your. I mean, that would be a good thing to talk about with all the other abilities, like Race Against Time. If you cast a Race Against Time and you're walking through a negate, are you protected from roots? And I think all of us have had that experience where we have been immune to roots while we've casted Race Against Time and are running through a negate.
Does negate actually root?
No, he's saying that. So my question was, does negate remove things that are applied to you, so like heal over times and effects?
Oh.
And he was talking about how when you hit Race Against Time to run through a negate real fast, the negate doesn't remove your immunity that Race Against Time gave you.
Correct.
So if somebody applies a root to you, even though you're in a negate and not able to use anything because you already applied the effect to you, you're able to safely run through without being rerouted.
Yeah.
It doesn't remove anything off of you.
Yeah.
So consensus is, if you get those hots off, like Soul Tether, if you get it off, Soul Siphon, your hots are going to be lingering around. Even if you've got a negate sitting on top of you, at least the hots are rolling.
Yeah.
Yeah, because once you pop it, it's a heal over time, so you're good to go.
Yeah, but because PvP is very volatile, for me, I've definitely encountered moments where I'm mid-cast and then I'll just kind of be, taken out of it because the negate was thrown at me at the coincidentally the perfect time, right? So, yeah. But yeah, so the Nightblade, Shadi, I think you have a pitch you want to give us on why the
Right, the
Nightblade's so good.
Nightblade. So I would say first and foremost, the Nightblade's one of, if not the strongest, or not strongest, sorry, tankiest healers in the game. Um, it has a lot of tools that lend into that. One of them being its passives actually give you a lot of chances to invest into higher HP because it gives you max magicka and max health.
Hmm.
So you can really kind of bulk yourself up. Other tools being like Dark Cloak gives you a massive heal over time. I think I was playing around with the editor and I got my tooltip. Now this is CP. I got my tooltip on Dark Cloak to be about 7.5k a second.
How much was your max health at?
Mid 40s.
Oh damn. And what's your so when you're playing a healer that has like mid 40k, what's your like stamina and magic pool at?
That was probably between 25 and 27 on the mag and I don't know, like 22k on the stam.
Damn. Okay.
Which, in my opinion, I've said this to a lot of people recently, having low resource pools, it's really not a problem at all. Really, what you need to be looking at are your recoveries. You should
Hmm.
have higher recoveries. Now that like ZOS has done a lot of balancing and they've removed the effect of max mag and max stam. Like we all remember 3, 4 years ago when stacking your max resource was like the way to build your character. And now we've gotten past that. It's no longer the way to build your character. Now these other traits, these other statistics are really, really important to make your character. And dropping max mag or max stamina to dump it into your max health, get some recoveries. That's the right way to build now. Especially some healers might look at that Nightblade that Shadi just described, saying, "Oh, 45k health, like damn, like that is that a good idea?" Well, guess what's super damn popular right now? These corrosive one-shot DKs running around, literally one-shotting people. And if you don't have a lot of health, you're gonna get one-shot.
It's funny that you
Mm.
mention it because that guy in particular. I think what I think that he's that popular guy Evo. He wound up in one of my BGs, and I was like, "Oh, are you that one shot? That one shot heavy attack guy?" No response. But then, of course, I just see we're in like a 2v2 or 3v3 3v4 skirmish, and he's nowhere to be found. And then all of a sudden, I see one guy pop, just blown out of his shoes. Another guy pop, blown out of his shoes. And this isn't a BG, so
Yeah.
yeah, can't confirm that was the guy. But yeah, no, it was pretty funny to watch.
I don't want
And
to get.
what is, yeah,
No, I was just gonna say I don't want to get too off topic, but that Evo guy, I don't know if you guys know, he actually has a YouTube channel and he has a spreadsheet for ganking builds, and he has a spreadsheet of all the combos, all of the damage, all of the sets in order of how much they do, and he's tested every single set in the entire game to see how effective they are at ganking. It's actually kind of crazy.
Wow. So he's
the
actually probably like the gank master then in this case.
I mean, he literally has like an essay for ganking sets and what they do.
The, the DK gank is probably the most dangerous gank in the game because of the corrosive. And the only protection against that is percentage damage reductions and max HP. This is one of those times where having a lot of armor is not really helping you in any way because the corrosive is piercing through it 100%. So you could have your own corrosive or magma shell running yourself, or you need to have a huge health pool and percentage damage mitigation.
Mm.
And so that
Yeah,
ties back to the Nightblade that Shoddy was describing with the huge dark cloak and a good health pool.
yeah. The Dark Cloak also gives you minor protection, which is very nice. It lasts 12 seconds, and the ability is a good way to tie into your major resolve because the Nightblade doesn't actually have an armor ability, right? So it actually saves a slot as a healer.
Totally.
You don't need to. equip a armor ability, you just use Dark Cloak, and that's kind of like your selfish heal
Hmm.
that gives you your major resolve, minor protection, and a powerful heal over time.
And
Um,
I guess you could even argue that, because the Nightblade gets its armor buff, right, that major resolve, just from
mhm.
casting any of its shadow abilities, and I think it's pretty common to use both Dark Cloak and Refreshing Path on a Nightblade healer build. So your armor buff almost has like 100% uptime if you're using your abilities right.
Yeah.
Yeah, which if you wear enough heavy pieces, say like 3 or 4, I think, the armor buff is about 12 seconds, so it lines up with the minor protection duration of 12 seconds.
Oh,
So
okay, okay.
you can kind of balance those two together. It's not hard.
Yeah, I
Uh,
think I run about like 5 pieces on my Nightblade, and I've noticed because the durations are off, right? I think, with 5 pieces, it gets to like 15, and then the minor protection is like 12 seconds. So there's a 3 second difference. And the way the active duration reminders, I guess the ones that are built within the game, the way those line up, its preference is the minor protection, so it always shows me that my buff is actually down a lot
Right.
sooner when it's really not. So, it's just a little bit confusing sometimes.
the way I play it is I just hit it again when minor protection is
Right?
down.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Me too. Me too. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's a great ability. And like you said, Refreshing Path recently got buffed. It now adds the minor intellect and minor endurance, which is the 15% stam and mag recovery, which is very useful on top of the free major expedition and a heal that is incredibly powerful. I don't know if you know this, but the heal on Refreshing Path is actually stronger than the heal on Extended Ritual.
Hmm. Is
It's
I
it?
just
believe it.
it's a smaller area, but it's stronger.
I'm doing a quick comparison here. It looks like, yeah, from what I remember, it's also stronger than Illustrious Healing too.
Yes,
Just by a little bit. Just by a little bit. But
yeah, it's very powerful.
yeah.
And if you put it in the right areas, it can prove to be, quite useful for
The,
the.
I love Illustrious Healing. It's a really powerful AoE hot, and so if a Refreshing Path is on the level of that, then to me that's really impressive.
I will say the only thing I don't like about Refreshing Path is it's like, it's a rectangle as opposed to a nice little circle.
Right.
So
Right.
I'll often just prefer Illustrious Healing because I think the radius kind of covers more ground than an actual rectangle.
Right. It does have some flaws in that it's smaller, but the utility and what you get out of it is better. So I guess skill in how you use it, sort
Yeah.
of deal.
And I guess you can kind of make a weird argument, right? Because the Warden was the only other source of where you could get both minor intellect and endurance for your team, and now the Nightblade has that capability too. So that's
Yes.
also pretty decent.
Yes. Shorter duration, but still very good.
Hmm.
The Nightblade has other tools in its kit. One of the stronger tools is the bubble. I'm trying to think of the name. Let me
Is it
go
Mirage?
to the. Yeah, the one specifically, I use the one that gives you
Phantasmal Escape.
the minor.
Oh, yeah, Mirage gives the major evasion and minor resolve.
Yeah, Mirage. Yes,
Yeah.
that's the correct one because it gives you the minor resolve and it gives you the major evasion.
Hmm.
This is pretty good because I'm not really a fan of Gossamer, so I pretty much never use it. And as a Nightblade healer, I'm kind of getting this for free, right? Because a DPS can just go 5 medium and put on Shuffle or Elude and get theirs. But as a healer, you often don't have that option. You either don't have room or, you know, you don't really have the chance to wear 5 medium or you don't want to because then you lose out on armor and other passives. But as the Nightblade, you can wear majority heavy and still also get major evasion.
Yeah, and that's 20% damage mitigation for AOE abilities, which run rampant in a PvP scenario.
AoEs is actually the majority of what will get you killed. That's most ultimates, most synergies. and those are the two things that hit the hardest.
Hmm.
Another thing that people probably struggle with is like Templar jabs. It's the strongest spammable in the game. Just no, there's no question about it. And this will mitigate that as well.
Yeah.
The only really hard-hitting single target that you're ever truly going to experience would be from a Nightblade who's ganking, a Sork who's launching crystal frags at you, and maybe a DK in a corrosive hitting you with a Molten Whip. But that's not that frequent in comparison to how many super strong AoEs are flying all over the place.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And
I think, right, the Nightblade is the only class that can, or that has its own source of major evasion. I know that the Warden has minor evasion, which is unique in itself, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I think that's right.
This is the only class that gives itself major evasion without getting external sources.
Yeah. So I guess, or not I guess, but additionally, you could even say that it gives you a little bit more versatility with like the types of I like running damage mitigation sets combined with a light armor set, but it gives me a little bit more freedom to run like a heavy armor set that doesn't have actual mitigation on it because I'm just so naturally tanky with what the Nightblade kit offers.
Hmm. Yeah, you can build into tankiness without actually having to invest into a tank set.
Yeah, because you're getting all those mitigations, which are pretty awesome. Yeah.
Now, outside of tankiness, the Nightblade does have a lot of other things. Its passives are not bad. You can give the team the minor critical crit chance, or the crit chance minor savagery for
Yep.
your physical damage dealers. You have multiple passives that are useful, like 15% increased on health, magicka, and stamina. You have, of course, like I said, you have the passive that gives you the free armor. You have the passive for extra health. And then if you go to siphoning, you get your ult gen passive, which is pretty unique in drinking potions.
Yeah. Yep.
This could be comboed with Arcases if you wanted to.
Yeah. For me, my favorite Nightblade build is running with my Argonian in Arcasis. So when I hit that potion, I hit the Catalyst passive, I get the Argonian passive, and it procs the Arcasis set. So you get like 3 in 1, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Do you use potion cooldown with that out of curiosity?
I made a Plague Doctor build, because Plague Doctors, you kind of just, they're like those Assassin's Creed time era where that kind of doctor that's just got kind of potions and stuff. So that was the theme I was going for. So for that particular build, I am using 3 infused potion cooldown, acceleration, enchants, whatever.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. But in that particular build, I'm not using Arcasis. I'm just running, what is it, Iron Flask and
okay.
Clever Alchemist. So that way, with the potion cooldown and the uptime on those 2 sets, my total downtime is 1 second. So you go through a ton of potions. I think in a normal BG, I'm always pumping the Essence of Magicka. Most potions I went through was 35 potions in 15 minutes.
That's kind of cool, though. It makes your potions a much more active thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's an interesting build that I feel the Nightblade does the best at.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah.
I feel that falls into the category of a healer, too, because it's just a different type of healer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's definitely very unique, but it's a little bit role-play-ish, I'll say. Yeah.
I would like to see the actual effective numbers on that and see how much value you're generating from that versus just traditional enchants and sets, but it is an interesting idea nonetheless.
The weird thing about it is that you all of a sudden it opens up a window into all these other potions that a lot of people don't normally use. And there's some bizarre and really strong potions out there that give some really strong effects, but they're on a much shorter cooldown. And it all of a sudden makes you have, if you wanted to, you almost have 100% uptime on detection on that build because you can drink so many detect pots and all of a sudden now you're a scout. And that's a really interesting idea. And so, yeah, you might lose some numbers on just raw healing or raw tankiness, but it makes your character kind of a little bit of an alchemist who can use these potions to different scenarios. And your quick slot bar might be loaded with a pile of different potions.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not good at switching like on the fly necessarily like that because I just primarily use tri potions. But if you're somebody that is excels on adapting to your situation on the fly and like, okay, I need immobilization pots here, tri
Yep.
potions here, whatever potion there, then yeah, no, that definitely be the way to go.
I think that's where you take that build into the next level is when you start playing with all these different potions. Obviously, you get the add-on. I don't remember the name of it, but it's like Potion Maker, and it shows you all the different potions that you have available to yourself.
Hmm.
And I think that that's a really interesting, clever build. But you need to use those other weird potions because, like, literally 100% uptime on detection if you wanted.
How long does detection last?
It's 15 or 20 seconds
Oh wow,
from a regular detect pot.
dang. Yeah, I've never used the tech bots. I've always just opted for the mage light just because it's free and potions are a little bit
If
expensive.
you have Mage Light slotted, yeah.
Hmm.
I'm usually not a fan of Mage Light. I usually just do a potion or a class ability, or I find some way around it. I find that Mage Light, it doesn't generate a lot of value for being on your bar, in my
You have
opinion.
to be able to really seal the deal when you use it. Like, they're very expensive spells. The Fighters Guild Detect and the Mages Guild Detect, they're small radius. You can get the larger radius morph if you want. They're very expensive. And so when you cast it, you need to be able to seal the deal. You need to lock that Nightblade down. You need to get him killed. Otherwise, if you just are popping the detect to chase him, a lot of Nightblades are really slippery and they'll sneak away, and you'll be burning through your resources just keeping up and trying to track them down. And then at a certain point, they'll turn on you because they knew that they wasted all your resources.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the detect pots are a little bit more easygoing on you. They give you your resource back and they allow you to keep chasing that Nightblade, while maybe also using your inner light or your fighter's guild ability and using detect pots. It really makes a big difference when you get into the detect pot game. And of course, if you're chasing these Nightblade-ish DKs, these one-shot DKs, they're less slippery than the Nightblades. So you'll be able to track them and get them before they one-shot you. However, we're getting off topic, and there's other amazing Nightblade healing abilities, one of which is the ultimate, which I know Shoddy has a lot of things to say about the healing ulti on the Nightblade.
Yeah, I would say the healing ultimate Soul Siphon on a Nightblade is the best healing ultimate in the game. Just no questions asked. It's better than the Templar one. It's better than Life Giver. It's
Yeah.
better than any of the other ones that you could list. I don't care what you pull out from your list. I would say that Soul Siphon is the best. The only downside to it is a half a second channel, but so long as you pull off that channel, this ultimate is absolutely broken. It has a 28-meter radius that goes through walls and different levels. So, say you're on a multi-tiered area like a tower in Cyrodiil, your teammate could be almost dead at the bottom of the tower while you're at the top, and you could hit it and it will heal them.
Yeah.
Hmm.
28-meter radius.
Yep, and it's like a sphere. It's not really like just
Yeah,
at a
it's
single
like an
plane.
orb.
Hmm. It has one of the highest healing tooltips, actually. I don't think per person it's as much as Life Giver, but the important thing to note is that it's multiple people at once. So long as you hit them with the initial, it means that they get the initial and the entire healing over time, as well as the major vitality that this has, which is applied to that healing over time. I don't know if that applies to the initial. It might, but
I
I
bet
do
it
know
does. I
it
assume it would.
probably does, but I can't confirm that. But the amount of potential healing you can get from this ultimate is higher than any other ultimate in the game. You don't
Not
have
only that, it helps them with that major vitality because it's not just your healing pouring into them, but it gives them that major vitality, which helps all their self-healing too.
yeah, you're helping them to help themselves as well, which is a very important,
You know,
you know.
I always thought the major vitality was part of like the synergy when they do it, but no, you just have to cast the ult and then everybody
Right.
gets major vitality. So that's even strengthening the case for Soul Siphon even more because the initial hit will be a regular, hit that it does, but then the hot that's ticking on those targets are now enhanced with major vitality.
Yeah.
Yes.
I've actually stopped entire bombs on teams before. I've been to IC and Cyrodiil and BGs and met, very skilled bombers, and I would just hold this ult waiting for them to hit my team. The moment I see, like a circle appear under my team's feet, I know that they're doing it, and I just hit this ult instantly. I just stand a little bit back so that I don't get pulled. I do the short channel, and everybody will go from like a third of health because bombing happens very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
They go from a third instantly back to full, and no matter what they're doing, they don't die. And you can be using blessing of restorations after you cast even to make it impossible to kill them. It's
To
lifesaver.
to give Life Giver a little bit of credit, if you are looking at your team when you cast Life Giver, you will get your Blessing of Restoration cast as a initial AoE burst,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll also get your double ward. I always recommend people use the double ward. It's called Ward Ally, so you get 2 wards.
Yep.
And it
Yeah.
does have a little bit of burst initial, but Soul Siphon is absolutely incredible. Just the fact that it hits everyone in a 28-meter radius, which I guess would synergize drastically once you get into bigger groups.
Hmm.
And then that last effect, the synergy.
Yeah, it also gives a synergy, which is another heal. Actually, it's damage plus healing. So somebody could just hit the synergy, and they'll receive another burst of heal. Because it's actually quite significant. That synergy can go for like 13, 14, 15K.
So in a
Can you
B,
describe the synergy for us? Like what happens when you click it?
Right. Well, I'm pretty sure the synergy is in the area after you activate it, and then anybody who's been within that area, including
Yeah.
like you can activate the synergy, and it will hit a single nearby enemy. So I'm assuming the closest one. It will deal magical damage to them, and it will heal you, the synergizer, for the amount that you dealt.
and how many people can have access to the synergy?
This is a single-use synergy, so
So just one person then.
yeah. It's still useful though. It's like
A lot of
that,
synergies are single use.
this
So
yeah, this ultimate is just so overloaded that just the fact that it has a synergy attached to it
yeah.
makes it that much better. The cost is 150, by the way, which is just 25 more than Life Giver.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it also's got a slottable passive ability from the siphoning tree, where any ability that you have slot on your bar will give you 3% more healing done. So it has a little secondary or effect that's not part of the skill itself, but just having it on your bar is just going to boost the heal just a little bit more as well, which is pretty neat.
Yeah. Sometimes I'll even double bar this just so that I get that and so that I don't have to bar swap to use it. So, because it's such a powerful ult, sometimes you could just say, I don't want to use Life Giver. And you could just use this and then put an extra 3% healing in both bars. And as soon as you see that somebody's in trouble, just pop it immediately. It doesn't matter which bar you're on.
Yeah, you don't even have to think about it.
Mm-hmm. We went on a very large tangent on that, so
because the crazy part is like Life Giver is still equally awesome because I know
Yeah.
in those BG situations, like whenever we do pre-mades and stuff, and we're not a Nightblade healer, Life Giver can still hold its own, right? You know, if Soul Siphon's number one, then Life Giver is definitely number two for sure.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah,
Life Giver's still fantastic, yes.
yeah,
Especially if you get into the habit of course aiming it at your team. Some people
Yeah,
forget that you should be aiming it at your team.
I'm not downing Life Giver. I'm just praising Soul Siphon.
100%.
nice.
Another. So what's interesting about the Nightblade healer is that they actually can pretty easily access their second ult generation passive because they actually have two. They have Catalyst, but then they also have Transfer, which is when you're activating a Soul Siphon ability, you're generating a small amount of ultimate once every 4 seconds. And that synergizes pretty well with their single target burst heal. Now, we talked about single target burst heals in the previous episode, so I don't want to cover that again. But I did want to talk about this one specifically and why it's good. Healthy Offering is good because it has a similar tooltip to other very powerful burst heals like Honor the Dead and Resistance Flesh, but what kind of sets it apart from them and makes it unique and uniquely powerful is that it's very cheap. On average, I think you're saving like around 800 magicka. I mean, I guess that changes depending on cost reduction, but it's a very cheap and powerful burst heal to have on your bar.
Mm-hmm.
And then it also gives you minor mending for 8 seconds. And this is a minor mending that you can take with you. So you're, just able to carry it around. You could, if you wanted to just keep permanent minor mending up, you could cast this ability once every 8 seconds just to refresh that and get that continuous 8%. And this is different from the Templar where it
Yeah.
is stationary and you have to stand in the circles in order to receive it. So in my opinion, I would say that this is better than what the Templar has to offer in terms of minor mending.
He just wanted to dig at the Templar again.
I just wanted to make sure that people understand why this is better than what the Templar has to offer on
100%.
that category.
I hate extended ritual for a lot of these reasons.
Yeah.
And I think it's, I have to like really double check like all the other burst heal magicka costs for each of them, but I think Healthy Offering might have like a little bit less compared to the others just because I think when they made the adjustment to allow it to also affect the Nightblade user itself, they also kind of mixed the cost with the health cost on it too, that drains about 1,000 health from yourself over like 3 seconds or whatever. So that kind of factors into why the Healthy Offering has a little bit lower cost than all the other burst heals in the game.
Yeah, which I wouldn't worry about that because as a healer, since you're the center of the healing,
Yeah.
you're going to have all the heal over time on you. And any damage you're incurring from using a Healthy Offering, even if you spam it, because you can get 3 of those damage ticks on you going at once if you just hit it every GCD.
Mm-hmm.
But it's only like 280 damage, I think.
For the health cost on Healthy Offering?
Yeah, it takes 280 a second at a time for 3 times.
Yeah, no, it's very negligible. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have a lot of healing over time on you, it won't matter. It won't really make a difference in your overall survivability, so I wouldn't worry about that.
Yeah. And
Getting
between
minor mending is a big deal too. That 8%, you stack that with your soul siphoning passive, which is another 3%. That's 11%. That's no
Right.
joke. You do the math on that. That's a lot of extra healing.
yeah.
Right. You can, of course, you can easily stack it with your major mending from the resto and then the minor mending from that. And carry, like I said, you can carry it around, take it anywhere as you want.
And there's only 3 sources of minor mending: the Templar's Extended Ritual, the Nightblade's Healthy Offering, and then if you're gonna wear the Healer's Habit set that you get from the Dragonstar Arena. So
Yeah.
that's pretty
Yeah.
unique for the Nightblade right there. Makes it really strong.
Yeah. Other than that, there's not really a whole lot more to cover in the Nightblade. Yeah, you could talk about how it's very good on the resources. Like you can use Siphoning Strikes to get extra resources. And it has amazing resource passives. There's a few unique ways to get weapon damage, like through Merciless Resolve if you want to build those stacks up.
Mm-hmm.
and it can act as a burst heal for yourself as well. There's, you can use kind of a debuff build with power extraction and give enemies minor cowardice and yourself minor courage, which will increase your healing. There's a lot of...
As well as proccing the major brutality and sorcery too, which also will boost your heals too.
Yeah. And then it has other kind of unique damage abilities like funnel health, which heals 2 targets and then will damage the enemy a little bit. I think this one's kind of on the weaker side, in my opinion. Honestly, it's probably something I wouldn't personally slot. But if you have a spare slot, you could put that on there.
Yeah.
But
there's not a lot of sources of minor cowardice. Like, I don't know anyone who typically uses minor cowardice in PvP. Like, even all of my builds that I've made, I have never once used a build that has minor cowardice. So I kind of think that that's a unique and fun ability, but do healers actually slot it? They might not have room to slot it.
So I actually did I guess a class variation to my debuff warden setup that runs the kind marches, and I wanted to do a test and see, can I just take that exact build and slap it on over to other classes, the Nightblade being my first test case. And I replaced the minor mangle that I was using on my warden, that I was getting from the Ice Staff's Frost Pulsar, and I replaced it with power extraction. So I'm actually applying the minor cowardice in this case.
Yeah.
So, that was just one example on somebody that you now. Surprise. I was actually using on my setup, which works out pretty good, because if you're lucky, you'll get minor cowardice and major cowardice from kind marches proc on the same time. That's about 600 weapon and spell damage reduction on your enemy target right there. So
that's significant, and it lasts a long time. It's a 30-second debuff, 8-meter AoE. It does disease damage, so maybe if you're really lucky, you could proc minor, the healing debuff that we get from disease.
Oh, major defile?
Yeah, minor defile, when you do the disease damage power extraction. It's got a lot of interesting, fun little things. I like to hear that you're using it.
Oh, yeah. For sure. Is there anything else? We kind of did the Nightblade thing for like freaking almost half an hour, I think, or 40 minutes or something like that.
Yeah. Combined with a few tangents.
Yeah.
The Nightblade actually took a lot longer than I thought. But I think it's important to go over this stuff because giving people an understanding of why we think the Nightblade is good, it helps them understand why they should be using the Nightblade as a healer option.
Yeah. It's got a lot of passives that boost the character stats, which a healer could certainly benefit from, as well as good healing skills that can benefit yourself and the team as well.
Yeah.
Whereas if we're comparing it to the Templar, as you were saying, the incentive to use other abilities outside the like the healing tree doesn't really jive with what you want to do as a full-on healer, we'll say.
Yeah, it's important that the passives are general use and not specific.
Yes. All right, so we're actually gonna cut the Nightblade part here because we did continue on and do the DK thing, but that took like another hour and a half pretty much, and the podcast would have been close to 2 hours. So we're gonna when you guys are listening, it was a hard cut there, but we're going to just kind of pause it here. And then on the next Healer Theory episode, we'll just cover the DK entirely because the podcast was just too long with everything we were covering with the DK. And we want to try to keep them under an hour. And I'm not really trying to do like 2-hour type content. So with that, we'll catch you guys on the next Healer Theory, which will, again, cover the DK in a lot more detail. So, yeah, we'll catch you guys later. See ya.
Peace.
Bye.